fighting a murder case and you're in the judicial system, first of all, the system designed to beat you anyway. So if you go in there, with a 187, most likely you're going to lose. My heart was beating every day. I didn't know what to expect. I couldn't say nothing. I couldn't do nothing. I had to let the lawyer speak and just sit in court and just be on my best behavior. But at the same time, it was happening outside of the court that was still going down.
Just telling, you know what I'm saying? Trying to make one of the old dudes tell on Snoop. I'm just like, you got the police working with him or something?
So you think maybe his frustration had to do with Snoop acquiring Death Row?
He had $700 million back in the day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Where did the money go?
February 1996. A Los Angeles jury files back into the courtroom.
Morning in Los Angeles, and I'm outside the criminal courts building where the trial that's set to get America talking even more than O.J. Simpson's is just about to begin.
As Calvin Broadus leaves the court where he has just appeared on murder charges, little kids clamor for his autograph.
What's your name?
They know him as rapper Snoop Doggy Dogg.
23-year-old Calvin Broadus, a.k.a. Snoop Doggy Dogg, the man who made gangster rap mainstream, stands accused of murder.
I'm just an inspiration. You look to me as inspiration.
Our next guest may have blown up larger than anyone in the entire rap music world. Are y'all ready for this? Snoop Doggy Dogg.
Please click like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss when new videos drop. If you haven't already, you may not know the untold story behind Illmatic, featuring St. Laz, and how murder and theft played a role in creating a timeless masterpiece. Be sure to check that out after you finish this video. At the defense table sits a 24-year-old who already changed hip-hop, but might never see a real stage again. One word will decide if he becomes a global icon or a memory from the early 90s. The clerk reads the verdict on murder.
All right, wait a second. There will be no outbursts in this courtroom. The next sound from anyone is out the door. Go ahead.
As to Calvin Broadus, we, the jury in above entitled action, find the defendant, Calvin Broadus, not guilty of the crime of murder in the first degree.
For Calvin, better known as Snoop, it wasn't just a win, it was a second life. Because 2.5 years earlier, one afternoon in West LA had put his entire future on trial.
I mean, I'm happy that it's over with, but how can I be happy about somebody being dead? You know what I'm saying? I'm not pleased for that. I wish it would have never happened. I'm just, happy that it's over with and I can move on with my life, but it's going to take some time for it to get all the way out of my system.
In 1993, at just 21 years old, a Long Beach Crip-turned-rap prodigy was blowing up off the Chronic and gearing up to drop Doggystyle.
We've been against each other too long, cuz. I don't like a lot of you niggas out here too, now what? But nigga, we're gonna all claim 25th, let's ride for one reason and one cause, cuz. Yes, sir. And if I can throw our minds to the left, cuz, and come out here and put our minds on the line, y'all can do the same, cuz.
An album that would redefine West Coast hip-hop.
With so much drama in the LBC, it's kinda hard being Snoop D-O-double-G.
But before his debut even landed, Snoop was charged with murder.
I'm on my way to Chino, rolling on the Great Goose Shackle from head to toe.
For the next 2 years, every music video, every award show, every studio session happened under the shadow of a possible life sentence.
Murder was the case that they gave me.
If that verdict goes the other way, there is no Snoop as we know him, no global brand, just another case file in Los Angeles County. To understand how Snoop ended up in that courtroom, you have to go back to August 1993. By then, he was already known for his alleged ties to the Crips, street credibility in an era where gang culture and rap were tightly intertwined. The man on the other side of this story was 20-year-old Philip Woldemariam, an Ethiopian immigrant and alleged member of a crew linked to the Rolling 60s. There was history and tension there, disrespect, threats, and a feeling that Snoop's rising fame meant he was suddenly moving through territory that other people felt belonged to them. One afternoon outside Snoop's apartment in the Palms neighborhood of West LA, that tension boiled over. A car full of gang members confronted one of Snoop's friends. Words were exchanged, signs were thrown, and when Philip reminded them they were in his neighborhood, it wasn't just a line, it was a warning. Hours later, Snoop is behind the wheel of his Jeep, riding with him, his bodyguard McKinley Lee and friend Sean Abrams. They drove past a small park. Accounts vary between Palms Park and nearby Woodbine area parks, but what matters is who they see. Philip and his crew, out in the open, sitting at a picnic table. The story split here. Prosecutors would later say Snoop went hunting, circling back to find the same guys from earlier and confront them. The defense insisted it was a chance encounter, that after Snoop pulled up, words were thrown, and things escalated in seconds. Witnesses remember Philip getting agitated. "This is our turf." He walks towards the Jeep. He and Malik exchange words. According to testimony, Philip had a .380 tucked in his waistband. Malik later testified that he saw Philip reach for his gun first. Standing up through the top of the Jeep, McKinley Lee fires 5 shots. Philip drops to the ground and dies on the scene.
Well, on the way back, we're going down the street and we see this guy like in the middle of the street. It's just kind of like waving us down, flagging us down. And it was kind of strange to me, but I noticed who it was. I know it was one of the guys that was in the front seat. And he's waving us over. So we kind of pull over, Snoop pulls over, and I'm thinking, okay, this could possibly be a situation. So I set my gun on my lap. He goes over off the sidewalk now, and he's kind of standing up by some bushes. And I do remember him saying, "Hey man, hey, we sorry, we know who you are. My boy, he just be tripping sometimes, man. My fault." I still remember him saying something about medication. I don't think he took his I still kind of vaguely remember that because I think about this a lot of times. And to make a long story short, he just said, "Man, my boy, he tripping sometimes, man. We sorry. Next thing we know, we saw who we know now, the deceased, try to run at us, and the guy grabbed him. He pushed him. And when he pushed him, he reached. And when he reached, that's when I fired."
Snoop stomps the gas. The Jeep peels off. And as sirens scream across the neighborhood, Philip's friends make a fateful decision. They allegedly grab his gun and hide it before the police arrive. That move, meant to protect their friend, would end up helping Snoop. Within days, Snoop Dogg, McKinley Lee, and Sean Abrams are wanted in connection with the killing. Prosecutors frame it as a gang-motivated drive-by. Snoop at the wheel, his bodyguard as the shooter, and a rival gang member dead in the street. Snoop and his crew go into hiding. For over a week, one of the hottest new artists in hip-hop is technically on the run, even as his voice is everywhere on the radio. Behind the scenes, lawyers negotiate, and at the center of the storm is Death Row Records, who had an ability to weaponize controversy. Instead of panicking, Death Row treats the murder charge like a high-stakes PR crisis and an opportunity. The plan reportedly becomes simple: keep Snoop visible, secure elite legal help, and spin the narrative before the state can. Instead of panicking, Death Row treats the murder charge like a high-stakes PR crisis and an opportunity. The plan reportedly becomes simple: keep Snoop visible, secure elite legal help, and spin the narrative before the state can. On September 2nd, 1993, Snoop appears at the MTV Video Music Awards.
Murder was the case that they gave me. As I look up at the sky, my mind starts tripping, a tear drops my eye.
Calm on camera, while murder charges are looming. Hours later, he turns himself in.
I wanted to turn myself in because I didn't want to be, looked at as somebody who did a crime and running. I'm innocent, and I want to go turn myself in and let them know what happened.
The contrast is surreal. A young, laid-back rapper on national TV, then in handcuffs before the night is over. Death Row posts a reported $1 million bond to get Snoop out of jail, and while Snoop sits on house arrest waiting for trial, the Death Row machine goes into overdrive.
For me to make this dude the most hottest artist in the world, people gotta see him. So I know we taking up his chance, but at the same time, it's his job to be an artist and promote this stuff. And then when they come to arrest him, it's my job to get him out of there.
3 months after the shooting, Doggystyle drops, December 1993. Despite the cloud of a murder case, or maybe partly because of it, the album explodes, moving hundreds of thousands of units in its first week and quickly going multi-platinum. One track takes on a dark new meaning. Murder was the case. Written before the killing, it suddenly sounds like prophecy, a young Snoop rapping about catching a murder charge and bargaining with fate. The label leans into that eerie coincidence. In 1994, Snoop releases a short film and soundtrack titled Murder Was the Case, directed by Dr. Dre and built around the image of Snoop dying, making a deal, and being pulled deeper into darkness before getting locked up. On screen and in the streets, he starts to look less like a villain and more like a hunted man, a star caught between fame, the system, and the life he came from. Every magazine cover, every news segment, every award show now has the same question hanging over it. Is Snoop Dogg a breakout rap superstar or a killer?
Dear God, I wonder, can you save me? I can't die, my boo-boo's about to have my baby. I think it's too late for praying. Hold up, her voice spoke to me and it slowly started saying,
bring your lifestyle to me, I make it better.
And how long will I live?
Eternal life and forever.
Or will I be the G that I was?
I make your life better than you can imagine or even dreamed of. So relax your soul, let me take control. Close your eyes, my soul.
My eyes are closed. I get fronted some keys to get back on my feet. And everything that said came to reality. Living like a baller low, I'm having money and blowing hella smoke. I bought my mama a Benz, my boo-boo a Jag, and now I'm rolling in the 9 Tris AL Dog Red.
Just remember who changed your mind, cause when you start set tripping, that ass is mine, nigga.
It takes more than 2 years for the case to actually reach trial. By late 1995, the stakes are enormous. Snoop's debut is a classic. Death Row is dominating. And yet, everything he's built can vanish with a single guilty verdict. Death Row goes all in. Depending on who you ask, the company reportedly spends up to around $10 million on Snoop's legal defense and damage control, retainers, investigations, expert witnesses, communications, the works. The message is clear. Death Row is not losing its biggest new star without a fight. The defense team is a who's who. David Kenner, veteran criminal attorneys, and eventually Johnny Cochran, one of the most famous lawyers in America, who would later cement his legend in the O.J. Simpson case.
O.J. Simpson, in a knit cap from 2 blocks away, is still O.J. Simpson. It's no disguise. It's no disguise. It makes no sense. It doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder.
The defense keeps it tight. One key witness, a clear story. Philip was armed, he reached for his gun, and Malik fired only to protect Snoop and himself. They even used video reenactments, at the time a rare forward-leaning strategy, to help the jury visualize the angles, distances, and movements from the Jeep's point of view. Then comes the LAPD problem. As the trial unfolds, it's revealed that police lost shell casings from the scene and destroyed Philip's bloody clothing, key physical evidence that could have helped clarify what happened. The jury watches law enforcement admit to mishandling evidence in a high-profile case, and you can almost feel their trust slipping. Another bombshell. One of Philip's own friends testifies that, yes, Philip did have a gun, and that they removed it from the scene and hid it before officers arrived. Suddenly, the self-defense narrative doesn't sound like a stretch, it sounds plausible. Johnny Cochran leans into that. In his closing, he frames Snoop not just as a celebrity, but as a young black man with a target on his back, someone who deserves the same presumption of innocence as anyone else. After 6 days of deliberation, the jury comes back, not guilty on the murder charge, for both Snoop and McKinley Lee. They deadlock on voluntary manslaughter and 1 accessory count, and those remaining charges eventually end in a mistrial, never resulting in a conviction. Snoop walks out of court a free man, but he doesn't walk out the same. The case would follow him for decades, but it also forced a turning point. Snoop has spoken about realizing that everything he had rapped about, the streets, the deaths, the paranoia, had a way of manifesting in real life.
He knew we was not guilty. He knew that. He knew McKinley Lee acted in self-defense. McKinley Lee has never, ever, ever, ever been involved with gangs. I have. McKinley Lee has never been involved with gangs. He was the trigger man. So what's the whole case about? Oh, it's about Snoop Dogg being gang affiliated, but Snoop Dogg didn't pull the trigger. He drove the car away from his bodyguard acting in self-defense. But if you look at them, they don't care about that. It's Snoop Dogg. We some low-life district attorneys that don't have no name, that don't got nothing going for ourselves. If we wash him up, we large.
His next major project, The Dogfather, dropped in 1996 with a noticeably different energy, still West Coast, but less obsessed with ultra-violent gangster imagery and more focused on survival, loyalty, and longevity. Over the years, Snoop slowly evolved from murder trial rapper into the laid-back uncle of hip-hop, a businessman, media personality, and family man who talks about wanting to see his grandkids grow up.
When these kids see me, 98% of them call me Coach Snoop. The ones that don't know me may say Snoop Dogg or Snoop Doggy Dogg, but the ones that know me, that know football, know that they got to call me Coach Snoop, and that's the greatest feeling in the world when a kid calls you Coach.
Let me see 24 lead out of that, 24 lead. Anytime I call a lead, that means you get right in front of the hole that we lead in front of.
The 1993 shooting and the trial that followed exposed a brutal truth about that era. Even monumental fame can't shield you from the consequences of street choices. One afternoon in a West LA park nearly erased a legend before he fully arrived. Faced with that reality, Snoop made a choice. He stepped back from that life, leaned deeper into the business, and turned near disaster into a second chapter that would make him one of the most recognizable figures in culture. If that jury had swung the other way, murder was the case wouldn't be a metaphor. It would be the end of the story. Instead, it became the pivot. Stories like this are a reminder that behind every platinum record, there's a real person standing at a crossroads. Some make it out, some don't. If you want more stories about how icons have navigated death, fame, and the justice system, sometimes barely, make sure you hit subscribe, drop a comment with who I should cover next, and like this video so more people can see it.